Hey, friends, welcome to the Call to Farms podcast. I'm your host, Tim Ing, the homesteading agent, joined by my lovely wife, Sophie.
Hey, friends, this is Sophie with Sprinkle with Soil and the Homesteading Lender.
And this is our last episode of 2025.
Woo, we made it.
We made it, you made it. And tonight, before we jump into the new year, we want to take a moment to look back, not at the highlights, but all the seasons that shaped us. 2025 was not a linear line. It unfolded slowly, then all at once, with wins that were quiet, lessons that were expensive, and moments that asked more of us than we expected. Today's episode is us walking through the year as it actually happened, season by season, sharing what worked, what stretched us, and what clarified the direction we're taking into the new year.
It also comes at a great time because we just finished our 2026 strategy planning session. And so, with that, when we kick it off, we look at how did we do this year? We take a look back at how 2025 worked, what didn't work, what were our accomplishments, where were our challenges. And in doing so, before we can plan to move forward, we do have to look backwards.
That's right. In the Army, we have lessons learned after every single mission, and we focus more on the challenges and areas of improvement because where we can focus on these things and improve upon them, that's going to, in this case, help us in the new year.
So, this is great.
So let's get started.
And I think it'd be good for us to remember, and for you listeners, if you're thinking about planning the first quarter, second quarter, third, and fourth, I remember very clearly, this year flew by really quickly for me.
It does.
Although January felt like it was 2 months long. I remember it was just a really long time. Like January just kept going.
It certainly did. And I think we do homesteading a lot different compared to other families because we consider ourselves more of modern homesteaders where we are trying to juggle working full-time jobs and also managing a homestead. And I find that a lot of my clients who reach out to me, they're looking to do exactly that, coming from the cities and not being ready to transition fully into 100% homestead life. But who says you have to do that?
I think why it works for us and to guarantee that we don't burn out from this lifestyle is so that we can continue doing what we're passionate about in our work, what we're gifted in, and what we feel called our mission is doing. Like these podcasts, for example, which takes a lot of time for us to record, for us to edit. We are a 2-person team on top of actually servicing all of our clients and homeschooling our children and homesteading on our farm. So we intentionally choose to farm what we say part-time, and part-time meaning we still have 4 dairy animals that we manage. And that's not an easy thing, but we go hard at it for 8 months out of the year after the cows calve. And then when we hit October is when we basically slow down. And by November, for sure, we've shut down the dairy operation, which means a lot of our chores go away, like milking itself, cleaning the machines, putting them into jars, washing jars. I've become a crazy jar lady, but that's another story. But like processing the milk, making yogurt, skimming the milk, making ice cream, making butter, a lot cheeses now. And so a lot of that has been taken off our plates, which is great. And we intentionally choose to do that. And we've only started to do that the last 2 years. This is our second year of taking an actual break because we thought that as homesteaders, for you to be a real homesteader, you have to milk year long through the snow and be miserable because that's just how the hardcore people do it.
And you have to hand milk too if you're really hardcore about milking. Getting into the dairy world, you can dive so deep into it. And we've been blessed to have found and converse with people who are in the dairy world. And we have great respect for them. But I'm laughing here because you can dive so deep into the weeds where you can get bragging rights as to how quickly can you hand milk a cow. We're not going for those records right now. The reason why we're talking about this is that I want you to better understand how we homestead because there is no right or wrong way is your own definition of homesteading. For us, it's providing nourishing foods for our family. It's not to grow so much food that we're going to be selling it. In fact, if we are blessed to have an overabundance, we are more than happy to share it within our community. So that's how we define homesteading and we make it work for us, which is why we say we're part time farmers.
And we encourage you and your family to go through this exercise too. It is the end of the year. We're hoping to get this out in the next couple of days in December of 2025 still. So take this time intentionally to slow down and document for you, write down the things that worked, didn't work. And one of the things that we started doing in preparation for our strategy session was not just bring our numbers and sales and successes that way, but we went through our phones and went through each month. And that is something that was really instrumental for us to take a look at, wow, we have really accomplished a lot because we just go through the day to day. In fact, you didn't even really want to look back through. And I said, well, how do we plan forward if we don't look back? And then when we wrote it all down, you're like, whoa, we did a lot.
I was blown away. When you start listing the things that you've done, so if you go back and just even look through your cell phone and look at all the photographs and the memories for this past year alone, it's amazing how many things, and it just triggers all the memories. And for us, we also went through our businesses as well and how many clients we serviced. And 2025 may have been a down year for most real estate folks, but we looked at our numbers. We're like, it was pretty much on par as one of our normal years. And that would be attributed to the customer service that we provide for our clients.
It is important that we take a look back and then decide what are the areas that were our challenges.
Hmm?
And this is why it's so valuable for you to do too. And then in those areas where you find your challenges, try to find that common thread. What was the commonality of the reasons why these were challenges? And do we want to continue to improve on those challenges? Or are those areas where we can make a firm decision like, yeah, that's not our strength for sure. And we're going to have to cut that out, which drained a lot of our energy in 2025. And there was a very common theme that going into 2026, I feel confident that we're going to be able to do things that are more aligned with people who are aligned with our values. And that is our North Star, essentially, to make sure that our values shine through those that we partner with. And quite frankly, I think we're going to take a break from partnerships, brand sponsorships, absolutely, and partnerships with brands, yes. But I think that we need to lean into each other more and trust that God's got us, trust that we work really well together. We've been together for 20 years and we've been in business. I've been in the real estate industry for 20 years coming in 2026 and you are going into it with 8 years and like combined we have almost 30 years of experience in real estate and with marketing and project management skills that we have from our careers. We just need to take a break. Next year, though, we're coming out with our second book. We are going to be very intentional with the speaking opportunities, the things that take us away from our home. In 2024, I ended up doing 17 speaking engagements and it burned me out. I basically only did 2 this year in 2025 and realized that it has to be with people we really love, with the right crowd for one of us or even 2 of us to be taken away from our home and our farm. And I don't know why it took us so long to figure that out, but you don't know, for at least for me, I kind of had to bump my head a little bit and then find out it's okay. Like I don't have to say yes to everything. And there's a quote out there that says, you've got to say no to good so you can say yes to great.
Yeah,
And where I'm learning to say no.
that's good. It's really good. And that's all part of being more intentional. I know that every single year we are just refining what we want to do for the upcoming year so that the year doesn't control us, but we have more control over that year. So if you feel that 2025 was out of control and that your life was just all over the place and you were being dictated by whatever events going on, this is the time to do a look back and yeah, take the lessons learned and make that plan as you charge into making 2026 a great year. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with Q1. Q1 was coming into from the really long and cold winter. I believe like last winter was so bitter cold and we used up almost all of our wood in our central boiler and just planning getting into the new year, we knew that we wanted to raise meat birds. Now, these are the meat chickens. And I knew that I did not want to do a batch in spring and a batch in the fall because typically in the fall, the birds are a little bit smaller. It's cold, it's rainy, it's wet, and it gets a little messy. And I would prefer to just go out in the springtime when the weather's nicer. So the decision was made to do double the batch. So we did about 100 birds.
Mm,
Yeah.
yep. And we did that not in January though, but we did that
No,
in Q1. We got
Q1.
started in March. We've tried it. We've tried it early. We've started in February before, and then we've even done several batches. And our last batch before was like when we started in October.
Yeah.
We thought that we could get as many chickens and do 30 at a time here, 30 at a time here. But ultimately, over the last few years, we realized that while our cows and our cattle are in milk, we
Yeah.
have all this excess dairy that we then use to clabber for our chickens.
Yeah.
And that cuts on a lot of costs. They get chunkier. It's easier on us because there's lots of grass during the March timeframe,
Yeah.
all ready to come out. And if we wait until October, things start getting really cold. Things get dreary. The cows, again, like we said, we start weaning the cows, so we don't have that much access to all of the dairy. So it just isn't as conducive for us. So what we ended up doing this year was we
Mhm.
front loaded all 100 of our meat chickens, which is great so that we know how to portion them out throughout the year. We
We
know.
did, and we staggered them out too so that they wouldn't all be ready at the 8-week mark at the very same time because 100 birds is quite a few birds. But we also taught a class. Well, actually, our children taught the class on how to harvest the chickens with our neighbors. So this was another great opportunity if you're homesteading. And when we talk about the months, we're talking about East Tennessee. So it's all dependent on where you live. And for us, it worked the best in the March, April timeframe to raise these birds. And we always find learning opportunities, but also opportunities for our children to speak up and to teach. And this was a great teaching moment, a way to give back to our community. And we invited our neighbors to come and participate in helping us out. More hands make the work lighter.
Yeah, it is great. And one of the hacks that they love teaching is when you're eviscerating the chicken and you're removing the lungs, they have this specially like curved fork that they can go in and pull out the lungs. And it's phenomenal because if you get lucky, you can probably use your fingers and do it, but it gets pretty tight in there and it can be time consuming to pull it out. And we would try to move fast, but do a really good job. But yeah, those little things make a difference, and we're able to help our community share those skills on top and the tips. These are things that we've learned from our mentors too. So it's just a great way to teach our children. They're not teaching these skills at school. They're not teaching us how to grow our own food, raise our animals, how to eviscerate. And so we try to instill these skills into the children so that they learn it. These are self resilient skills. When you can do it yourself and then teach someone,
Mm.
you are able to absorb more information yourself and you can internalize that as a skill and you lock that away and you've leveled up. But more than that is that now we are teaching those self resiliency skills to the adults, which love learning from the children. It's less intimidating and the children are willing to share. So it's a beautiful experience to be a part of. And it's a beautiful experience to watch and witness unfold as parents.
Yeah. And then also in Q1, we dealt with electricity. We brought power to the land that we own. We were able to get the fence charge for that. And then we also brought power to our garage here on our property because our children saved up all of their milk money. And this is really cool because their hobby of pottery all of a sudden became more of a business because they stepped up and used all their money and purchased a kiln.
And I remember just making sure that was set up properly. We have our good friend who helped us. He's an electrician in the area and really made the exception for us to make sure that it's safe. We had to upgrade several panels and we wanted to make sure that things were good to go. And we
Yeah.
had our first firings this year. We used to work out of our studio just to gain a little bit more confidence. And our pottery instructor, interestingly enough, he came down to handhold us through the entire process. We've gotten one-on-one hands-on training, and he ended up being a client.
Hmm?
He's about to close on his home with him and his beautiful wife at the end of this month. So
Yeah.
we love our community so much. And like when we asked him, how can we pay you? He said, just help me have the confidence for my family to buy a home this year. They've been sitting on it. I think no one in their family has ever bought a home and they only had like horror stories. And so they really wanted us to come in to help them talk through their concerns and run the numbers for them to be sure. And he's all in the spreadsheet world too.
Mm.
So it was great. The more we invest in our community, the more it just feels so.
Absolutely. And to close off Q1, I had some truck troubles. Now, the truck that I had from California, it had transmission issues and we thought we fixed it the previous quarter and then there were still issues. So then we had to look for another truck, another used truck. And this time we ended up getting a 3/4 ton. That way we could do all of the work on the farm. So I mentioned that because oftentimes my clients who are looking into purchasing properties.
We got a used one because, and even then it was expensive.
Yeah.
But yeah, we were able to. It was a really good timing because I think the truck had just come in and
Just got
got him.
traded in.
It just
Yeah.
got traded in. It did smell a little bit like smoke, but the bed is an extra long bed,
Mhm.
just perfect for what we need on the farm. And I think that, yes, we talk about being in community. We talk about how we love being there for other people and other people in our community are there for us. But we also never want to take advantage of that. And just like things, limited things like having proper transportation for
Yeah.
you, your animals, your food sources for your animals to haul hay and to have the ability to step in to help others that can't have the opportunity.
Yeah.
So if they need to haul their things, they can borrow
Exactly.
our trailer, borrow our truck, which has happened.
Right. If you're going to homestead, you need to save up for a good, reliable truck. And it is something essential to have. It's like having a shovel.
It's not even a shovel. It's like a Swiss Army knife.
It does
It does
everything.
everything.
And I rely on my truck all the time. It's not just for show for people like in the city driving their trucks. It's something that we actually use daily. And to your point, I don't mind borrowing equipment. In fact, that's why we have community. So we don't have to purchase everything. But at the same time, there are some pieces of equipment that I am scared to borrow because I don't want to accidentally break it or damage it. If you live in the country, you'll know that farmers or just people in general are going to be very particular about their truck or their tractor. These are their babies. And so it is very important, especially for those who are looking to purchase a homestead, make sure you budget and save enough money not only for infrastructure, but for pieces of equipment like a good, reliable truck.
And we hadn't even considered one. We were borrowing our trucks, or we had when we were
A
picking up
neighbor.
hay with our neighbors, like they would help us with that. We would just take us several extra trips for our hay versus their hay. But then when our truck broke down, we realized that we had lost the ability to even just pick up lots of feed or to
Mhm.
transport the many different things like a milk machine from here to there. And quite frankly, like we throw our trash into the truck too, because we here have to drive and drop off our track at the local is it
Convenience
convenience
center.
center.
Yeah,
Okay.
it sounds nice.
It sounds nice. It still throws me off because I'm like, it's the dump,
Yeah.
but We don't call it the dump here. We call it the convenience center. And so that's yeah, it's just I felt like that's why I said it's not really a shovel, it's more like a Swiss Army knife. You're having a truck and a reliable one at that. And because we live up in the mountains, it is something that it's an absolute must have.
Mm.
So budget for that, and trucks are getting more and more expensive. I don't
Right.
agree with it at all. I think it's I think it's astronomical, and but at the same time, you can't do many of the hard things without a truck.
Yeah. You can still homestead, but it just depends on how you define homestead. All right, let's jump into Q2 because a lot of things happen in Q2. For one thing, we were able to get lease land from word of mouth from our neighbor who helps us hay one of our fields. He told us about one of his neighbors who they're an elderly couple and they have all this acreage and it's all over the place in terms of the growth.
They
Is
couldn't manage it because they're in their 80s and 90s, and I'll just say, sadly enough, the wife
yeah.
of the land and the property just passed last week. So they were and the husband is actually quite frail, I thought, and she was his caretaker. So there was no way that they could manage it anymore. There was a farmer that had put his cattle on there, but because the cost of cattle was rising so much, according to our friend who introduced us to the land, he said that farmer then went off and sold everything because it just wasn't profitable anymore. It's challenging, right? Because in our generation, and what are we,
I don't know. Gen
millennial,
1, millennial.
Gen Ys? No,
Anyways,
Ws.
doesn't matter.
The one before millennials, whatever that is. Drop a note in here and let me know if you know what that is. But it's hard for us to have access to all this extra land and therefore hay or pasture for our animals without it costing an arm and a leg. And so, as the aging population who live out here rurally or out where you're at rurally, it's getting harder and harder for them to manage. So, as they age out, they need people like us in our generation, even if you're a millennial, to come in and help them manage that. And in exchange, you're able to then have free grass, free pasture to rotate your animals through.
Yeah, and I want to talk a little bit about this lease land, this opportunity. I remember when you mentioned it, I said, no, I don't want to take it on because I went out there and actually took a look at the land, and the land needed a lot of work in terms of fencing, needed
Mhm.
proper fencing. And I was calculating how much it would cost to do proper fencing to keep my cattle on this land. And since I don't own the land, I wanted to make sure it made sense for me to put all this funding into fencing material. And at the same time, and you're going to learn this when you move out into the country, these opportunities don't come all the time. So if your neighbor or someone is offering you land, you're supposed to say yes, because if you don't say yes, you don't know when another opportunity is going to come by again. And once you say yes and you make improvements to that land and they see what you're doing, word will spread and more opportunities will come to you. This is especially useful if you have livestock and you need more land. And this is something that Joel talks about, Sean and Beth talk about the power of using leased land will save your wallet in having to purchase all this other property in order to feed all of your livestock. And this is a great way of doing so. But there is an art because you have to figure out what kind of fencing and where can I skimp on it and save money. But at the same time, you need a sturdy fence to house and keep all of your livestock. So, in any case, second quarter, I got a little bit of help from our neighbors in terms of building this fence, and it took some time and it was a full ordeal, but I actually felt really honored that they opened their land to us. So this elderly couple, I love that I was helping them out. They were helping me out, and this is great. This exchange, being able to barter out in the country is amazing. And maybe this may just be a Tennessee thing, but we found that large tracts of land are owned by one family. And it's only over time that they start getting parceled out and piecemealed by the children, the grandchildren who don't want to farm anymore. They start selling them off. but we still live in an area where large families own these properties, and breaking into it, coming from out of state, this is something where the families will keep it guarded in terms of the hay, in terms of their land. So this is almost like getting exclusive access to an off-market listing. And this is gold. This is something where if you tune back to one of our previous episodes where we interview Daniel Salatin, he talks about the power of lease lands and being able to find community and getting plugged into it. So this actual moment this past year is wow, we are plugged in where they are offering these like exclusive access. So, in any case, it worked out very well for us. We were able to fence off this property.
With the help of our fantastic old neighbors
Yeah.
and
And their sons. Yeah.
their sons, and just so blessed to be able to have them in our life, help and be so willing to put in that time and the effort. And on top of that, we were able to record them
We did.
because they are so talented. They are the best. He's Tennessee Farmer of the Year.
Yeah.
And so he's trained up his children to do fantastic work. And they've just people with the highest integrity. And we love them so much.
Yeah.
And so that video and that course is available on our Call to Farms membership site.
Yeah.
So we'll have that link down below, and we are starting to build out this community. We already have early members in there, early founding members. So thank you. Shout out to our founding members on there.
Yeah.
But we are going to be growing out this space and membership in 2026 with all of my classes. So the pho class, we also have a chicken harvesting class in there as well. You have?
I have my fencing class in there that you mentioned. I also have a homestead security class and working on some more classes. The goal is to make it a one-stop shop. So if you're looking into homesteading, that you'll be able just to join this community and find all the videos and that you're looking for in terms of reinforcing your homestead. So once you purchase your property, what do you do next? And then also, Sophie's going to be including a lot of nourishing recipes and meals, easy meals to make that are truly farm to table meals. And we're building this out. So please join, check us out, and become a founding member. We'd love for your input and just to make it be your community.
And you can hop on there and ask us any questions, ask each other
Yeah.
the tough questions while you're struggling on the homestead or in the home
Yeah.
rather. And yeah, it's a great community. So just thank you. It's an extension of clearly our Call to Farms podcast here. We're extending the membership to every one of our listeners at the very least to join the conversation because we're here. It is almost midnight as we often pop in around 11 o'clock at night, but we are talking to you and we don't get to hear from you and we want to. So we'd love for you to be a part of our membership. And in full disclosure, your support there, if you haven't subscribed to our podcast, please do. It would help us immensely because we are spending the time to record. We're spending the time to edit. And as we want to hit our goal next year to release a podcast episode every Monday,
Yeah.
we have talked about hiring on some help because again, this is great and we enjoy these conversations, but we also have quite a few expenses on the side. But if there's a way that we can offset it and for you to come along and support us on the subscription side, you can subscribe on whichever podcast platform you're listening to us on, but also feel free to join the community and our membership as well, because that helps us out so much. And not just financially, but it helps us out with our morale because
Yeah.
we would rather be sleeping, but we try to do this at least once a week rather to hop on and record and then edit and keep this going because we love what we're hearing back from you all. You're emailing to us, you're commenting on our videos, and we're reading every single one. So we just appreciate you so much.
Yeah, we truly appreciate your support. Our mission is to provide you with as much value as possible from our experiences coming from California, moving to Tennessee, and wishing we had these resources. So we're building it out for you. So please join The Call to Farms community is something that I am truly passionate about. I'm really excited about for 2026. And check it out. We're going to provide this, actually, we're going to provide a year free of charge for all of our clients that we've worked with in real estate and in lending because we truly feel that this is something that should be included. It's almost like a home warranty for those who just
Mm.
purchase a home in the city. Why not have a manual? Why not have video? So once we sell you a property, what do you do next? We want to be able to provide these resources for you so that you don't have to go and search on YouTube or read through all that noise.
And a lot of it is because we work with so many first time home buyers, first time homesteaders. And so we hear a common
Yeah.
slew of questions that come in, very common. And that's why we host our monthly home buying workshops to address those questions, or that we hop on into our monthly housing market updates to tell you here are the trends that we're seeing in the last month. But more so, we hear the common threads, and because we're homesteaders ourselves, we know the cost of things like fencing is becoming more astronomical. We got a quote for $30,000 for fencing around our property. And thankfully, we know how to do it. It just took us more time to do it.
Mm.
So these are skills that once you learn, you'll be able to do your own fencing, perimeter fencing, cross fencing, bring in your animals, make sure that they're healthy. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's self resiliency
Yeah.
and being separated from the system. Like, how do we help each other out with these skills? And that's why community is so important. And one more point, we have received so much feedback about the fencing class that we will hopefully be able to have the family that has helped us build out our fencing, if we can convince them to come teach as part of our
Mhm.
Homesteaders United event, that is something that we are hoping for 2026.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And the other thing I wanted to note is that there is no shame too. If you have to get somebody and hire someone to do
Right.
the fencing, by all means do it if it's going to save you the time so that you can prioritize and do other tasks. But the reason why we have these videos on how to do fencing is so that you understand how to do it. That way, when you hire that contractor to do the fence, you'll be able to check their work and know exactly what you're looking at to make sure they're not going to pull something and not fulfill their end of the bargain in doing quality work. So that's an added benefit of knowing exactly what to look for.
Yeah, we actually had hired some of the fencing work that goes up into the mountain ridge. And when you were walking with them after they had said they had already completed the project,
Yeah,
you were able to spot some weaknesses. You want to
I
talk about
did.
that?
They weren't anchoring it properly. You're supposed to anchor it off of a tree or you can anchor it off of a wood post. And they were just getting lazy in terms of how they were doing so. And they were cutting corners, which I know if I have all these trees in the woods here in the mountains, things will shift throughout the year. So they may be fine now, but they're going to ground out. And then I'm going to have to walk the perimeter and look for that fault. They should do quality work. You should keep your contractors honest. And even if they get great reviews like mine did and are known in the area,
Nothing
you
beats,
should still be able to walk it. And
yeah,
actually, you'll get respect from them
right.
knowing that you're just not someone from out of state with money and just paying for things to be done, but that you actually know what you're doing and what you're hiring them to do. It's just you don't have the time to do it at this moment because there are so many other taskers to accomplish.
Not only that, it's hard to go up the mountain. Like, it's a pretty steep mountain, and then you have to cut out some trees, you have to carve out a path, and you have to make
So
sure that
true.
you put fencing around that doesn't ground out. So that's what we essentially decided to put some funds towards, because we can do the pastures ourselves and the cross fencing. Mom wanted fencing all around the perimeter of the entire property. So that was what we said, okay, if it's tough and it's going to take us more time
Mhm.
and it's going to get us frustrated, that's not worth it for us to do.
Yeah.
Yeah. So going from Q1 to Q2, we realized that this was going to be the Sabbath year. And so we honor the Sabbath, we honor the Old Testament and as well as the New Testament. So we honor actually the whole Bible. And when we did the math, it looked like this year, starting in the spring, which was March 28th, 2025, was the beginning of the new year. And so what that meant was we didn't realize that until like February, mid-February, maybe. So we knew that we only had a couple of weeks to get everything together. So in that short period of time, mind you, we had just moved into the property and we're still moving things in the last couple of weeks at that time. And it's a mess. Try moving a farm. There's a lot of moving pieces, pun intended. And so because of that, we were able to just not really focus on that much soil as we would have liked, but we got plants into the ground before March. I think it was 26 actually. And then on top of that, we started putting together our orchard and dug 48 holes, didn't have all the trees to fill it out. We got basic apples and pears and persimmons and jujubes in, and that should be good for for this year. We still have those holes because when I was weed whacking through, I
Mhm.
fell my legs just fell into the hole
Mm,
several times, and it was really scary.
yeah. Yeah,
Because
be
the weed
careful.
whacker is not just a weed whacker, it's a brush cutter. So it's got like metal blades, which I love. It's my absolute favorite tool. But we have those holes in there and I would love to fill them out starting next year in 2026 and build out our entire orchard.
But closing in on Q2 and going into Q3, this is where I started thinking, okay, I need to get firewood. I need to start preparing for the fall and the winter time. And I need to start getting hay as well. So it's when we went out and got ourselves a trailer. So that way we could start stockpiling hay for the winter.
And I thought that was a little strange for you to get started so soon, but I leave that to you because in the last several years since we started raising dairy on our own,
Yeah.
you've been the one to manage all the hay and the relationships. I handle the bartering. Or actually, you do. I'll
Mhm.
make the butter, but we basically have bartered yogurt, dairy,
Mhm.
and butter from two local farmers or homeowners that have
Mhm.
access to all this hay or their land has been passed down for generations. So
Yeah.
they have all this access to hay. But the thing that you may not know is by the time we get to April, a lot of farmers are hoarding their hay because the grass isn't ready to cut until May or June. And if you have cattle on your property during between, I would say like October to March, we have to supplement hay
Yeah, you do
for that time.
before the grass comes out.
And so March, grass does start coming out, but not heavy yet.
Mm.
April as well. So I remember in April, because we had just moved to the property, we didn't have proper infrastructure. We didn't have a place to put all the hay. So we just grabbed a few things. I remember by April of this year, all of the farmers were hoarding their hay. They didn't have anything for sale. And I think that's when you started in H2, latter half of the year to really focus on getting those relationships and access to hay.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than being caught where you're having too many animals to feed and you don't have enough hay. And that caused us to kick it into gear. And I shared this on one of our previous episodes, but we were able to barter yogurt for hay. And that was an awesome thing because hay is pretty expensive. And to be able to share what we produce with someone who produced something that we need and they truly value and cherish the work that we did, that we put into to make this product. The cow made the product, but we helped refine it. That it was really beautiful to be able to have that relationship and also knowing that you're building your team here. You have people that support you. You don't have to homestead alone. In fact, we encourage you not to homestead alone. Yes, you can do it, but it's so much easier if you build this community around you. And the community is not just going to come and raise their hand. It's sometimes through out of necessity, out of humbling experiences of when my truck broke down, or hey, I need enough hay because I didn't do the math, or because we're in the middle of transitioning, that we weren't able to properly plan and be ready for it because of Q1. And then now we're talking about Q2. And I'm like, okay, I got to start planning going into winter time, even though it seems a little early. I want to make sure that I'm prepared this round.
What's funny as I hear you say that, there's this whole talk about no to having a cashless society with digital CBDC, which if you're here, you know how we feel about it. But we are pro a cashless society. And let me finish what I'm going to say here before that's taken out of context. In that, we want to be able to barter, and can't say barter because that the government considers that as taxable income. So we're going to say we love being able to share with our community. And that affords us the ability to not have to transact with cash. And it's much more intentional living. It's a much more beautiful world. And when you meet someone, it's not, here's what I do for my career. That's how in the tech world, in the corporate world, that's what we're used to. When you meet people at an event, you're often starting with, hi, my name is, and I work for here, and this is what I do. It's less that. It's actually none of that here in the country and the way that we choose to live. We don't even kick off with that at all. We say, hi, my name is so, and this is what I do. This is what I have. These are the skills that I have. And it's
Mhm.
almost thinking about an app and creating an app on like, how do we match skills and needs for one another so that we don't have to transact in cash or in payments,
Yeah.
right? Like payments in that you were talking about the dollar or a cash society.
Yeah. That's a great point. And also, the government is trying to tax our crypto anyway. So, yeah.
Again, this is the reason why we talk about being self resilient and escaping the matrix. Like, how do we continue to disentangle ourselves from the system that we're a part of? And one of it is being in community, learning the skills
Hmm?
so that we don't have to buy all these things. We don't have to be consumers. We can produce these things for ourselves and produce them in an abundance where we can sell them, or not necessarily for cash, but that we can help others with it and we can share with other people. That's the path forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's talk about going to Q3, the big event for Q3, Homesteaders United Jamboree, our second annual one. And
Woohoo.
I will note that it was a very successful event for those who attended, and the classes, the workshops, the food that they had, that it went off without a hitch. So those, we received so many positive feedback. In fact, we even had a couple of our clients who drove all the way from California, and we got to meet them in person. It was a great opportunity to finally see them, to hear their goals. And actually they're in contract right now. They found the perfect land in Tennessee, and they're building their dream property right now with that one-time close loan with you. But this event was a great culmination for, and our intention when we created the Homesteaders United conference was that we wanted to bring those who were even interested or those who have been homesteading together to form a community, to learn real life homesteading skills, not just hearing it from the stage, but actually doing it, harvesting sheep, harvesting chickens, and then actually eating that meat, having farm to table, nourishing meals, which is why we have Weston A. Price as one of our main sponsors continuously each year for this event.
I think that if you think about Weston A. Price, Dr. Weston A. Price, and if you're familiar with nourishing traditions, a lot of it talks about not just the food side, but the homesteading side and making sure our food is clean and accessible and most nutrient dense. And so there's not been one specific one that we've attended where it has been more We're more of an unofficial Weston A. Price conference, but for those who value Weston A. Price values and want to learn not just from the food side, but the homesteading side, that was why I sought out when we were in our many conversations to talk about we should start something like that where people can learn how to cook their food from scratch and have it the most nutrient dense, the way that not only do they cook and preserve, but also how they grow and raise their animals and their vegetables by improving the soil, creating compost, like wherever you are. Like we cover all of those topics. And one of the things that is just frustrating as we have attended 17 speaking engagements in 2024. We had never really gone to homesteading conferences prior to that because we didn't know that homesteading was like a thing. Like we didn't know it was a keyword or a term to even search. We just knew that we were in California and we needed to be more resilient because of the entire shutdown in 2020. But with all that being said, the whole purpose for us was that as we went and attended these other conferences and there were speakers that talked about food, a lot of these venues have limitations to who you can bring on to their site. And so they're limited with like food trucks or they're limited to the types of quality of food
That's right.
they can bring in. So it's not necessarily the organizer's fault, but it's oftentimes like maybe the venue doesn't allow it or that the cost to bring people who like make hot dogs, for example, and not the best quality ones, like it's within a price point that they can enter. I say that because that was probably the hardest thing for me as the author of The Nourishing Asian Kitchen to talk about things like making sure you don't eat processed foods, making sure that you're cooking from scratch, making sure that when you go out to eat, you're able to control these factors. And as the attendees left my tent or my presentation and they go out to grab food, it would literally be crappy truck food that goes against everything we had just learned. And that's not just me, that's a lot of other homesteading speakers that talk about food preservation, how to cook from scratch.
Yeah.
And so we hear that even at Weston A. Price conferences. Like that's why Weston A. Price has their own chef. They have their own program. They have their own food. You buy into it and you have the satisfaction of knowing that you're going to have access to the best high quality nutrient dense food when you go to the Wise Traditions Conference, which is hosted by the Weston A. Price Foundation.
Yeah.
And so our dream, my dream, was when we talked about creating a conference. We wanted a Homesteaders United. You had come up with that name, which was fantastic because we wanted people to come together regardless of your skin color, regardless of your background, financially, whatever, because we always stuck out at homesteading conferences and we wanted to just get together with people who share the same values from the food and the farming side. And that was the North Star for us to make sure that the Homesteaders United Conference was going to be the offshoot of an unofficial offshoot
Yeah.
of the Wise Traditions Conference focused on homesteading skills versus what Wise Traditions is a conference that's focused on the health and healing arts.
Yeah. I'm glad you talked about that because we want to make absolutely clear what our mission was for Homesteaders United. So this past August, when we had our Homesteaders United Jamboree, mentioned it was very successful and that those who attended, we just received raving reviews again for the second year. In fact, many of them who attended the first year when we held it in North Carolina near Asheville, they came back
Yeah.
for a second time. So we were creating this cohort who came the previous year. They were already talking because we had the Facebook group and they were already conversing and excited about the fall this coming year. And this one was really good for those who came and attended. On our end, though, it was a little bit challenging in terms of we had to step in and fulfill a lot of the operational roles and did a lot more tasks that we weren't planning on doing on our side. But we were happy to step in. We completed all these things. You led the kitchen staff and we produced all the meals for all 3 meals, in fact, because as Sophie mentioned, having nourishing meals is so vitally important for us that we include it with the cost of the ticket. And we also keep in mind that families have several children, so we priced it accordingly. To produce this kind of event and have this many meals go out and have the courses, the workshops go off without a hitch and staying on time, that's something that takes a lot of work behind the scenes and even leading up to it. And we did a lot of planning. We stepped in and there was an very expensive lesson learned. So from the very beginning, we said, in looking back this past year, we looked at our wins and we also looked at lessons learned. This one with Homesteaders United was an expensive lesson learned in terms of when we had to step in, we identified areas of weaknesses that we had to make a change for next year.
When we come into our maybe it's because we've been blessed to work together since we were in high school. We worked on
Mhm.
projects together. I think our earliest project, this is all part of the reflection when we were working on this for 2026.
Yeah.
So it's like, how long have we worked together?
Yeah.
But we worked together on our humanities project our senior year. And since then, even in our, I think it's because our relationship has always been long distance. When you were in the army and I was in grad school, we're always long distance. And then when you deployed to Iraq, I was still in grad school. And so a lot of the kinks we worked out because we learned to communicate
Yeah.
with each other really well. And so you and first of all, if you've ever even thought about working with your spouse and your partner, like it's probably one of the most challenging things.
Yeah.
And we had a really tough month just relationship wise, to be completely transparent,
Right.
in December
Yeah.
because of looking back at the year, what we could have done and where our business is going. And sometimes with the communication over time, like we talk, we do really well in business together. I think that's
Mhm.
unique to us. But if you've ever worked with your spouse, and we hear this all the time where people are like, "Oh, I could never work with my spouse." Like I could never be around them 24/7. And we are around each other 24/7. Then
Mhm.
we're around our children who we homeschool, which so many parents I've heard, especially in the Bay Area, will say, I can't spend all day with my kids. I would go crazy.
Yeah.
We are maybe a little crazy. We're around each other all the time, from us two with the children, and then with the animals, and then with aging parents.
Yeah, but that being said, if we have difficulty at times communicating and learning to work with one another, think about when you have business partners as well and what that looks like. Because you may have great days and you're going to have really challenging days as well. And this is something that we want to mention.
And I think that why you and I work well together is because we've learned to anticipate the next moves. Within, if we see a event like this happening with the things logistically that need to happen. When you
Yeah.
look at a file, when you tell me, hey, and actually we don't connect very much together on our client files
Yeah.
because I know when something comes in, I already know what steps to take. He knows, and Tim trusts me to be able
Mhm.
to handle it. And there's really no communication. I have a small team that helps me process all my files and I get it to closing. Tim hands it over to me and I don't need to know all of the nuances personality wise, what they're going through, because I can see it in the numbers. And that's where I thrive. And we knew that in bringing in business partners, that not everybody works that way, even
Mhm.
together, individually, any of that. But we thought that with shared values, that we could work through the kinks. And so we made sure to meet weekly
Yeah.
from like February down to August. And we thought that we had worked out all the kinks. We got everything laid out. You had spreadsheets, I had spreadsheets, and we presented that every single week to run our meetings.
Yeah.
When it came to the day of, we did not expect things from very basic things to be not met on their part. And I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things is because you have ownership over your things. I have ownership over my things. When you
Mhm.
tell me you make all the food, breakfast, lunch, and dinner for the next 3 days, I got it. You don't really, you ask me for the menu, but you also trust that I'm going to go
Yeah.
and bring the right people in. And
Yeah.
thankfully, I was able to bring in Maureen Diaz, who is basically like the head chef over at Wise Traditions or Weston A. Price. She's a chapter leader. She's the leader of all chapter leaders. And I had felt full confidence in having her by my side. I was able to convince her to come down and cook with me in the kitchen. And we didn't even have a kitchen. That was the thing. But I knew you never worried about the fact that the breakers kept tripping. Maureen and I got it all worked out.
Mhm.
And that's just how I work. And maybe that's unique to us because we're military.
Yeah.
I'm not going to complain about it. I'm just going to get it done
That's right.
because the work needs to get done. So, for example, like I said, if you're telling me I've got breakfast, lunch, and dinner, I got it. I'm going to create the menu. I'm going to go grocery shopping. I'm going to buy the things that I know are necessary within budget. And even then, the budget was really tight. And so I
Actually, the budget was so tight, we were funding it personally as well.
Yeah, not only that, I had made like 6 gallons of Vietnamese yogurt to bring over, and then I had, with our community here, created like another 6 gallons worth of kimchi and kraut
Yeah.
to bring as ferments to be a condiment and a side to all of our main dishes, and brought it made it at weeks in ahead in advance, and then made sure that they were transported properly over
Mhm.
to North Carolina. We drove everything over, made sure it was the right temperature, and served it, and it did really well. But yeah, I just not only is it cost because it's not really cost effective, it probably would have been cheaper if we bought yogurt at Costco or something, but it's
Yeah.
just something that I that's my love language. Food is my love language. I wrote The Nourishing Asian Kitchen because I want you to know everybody should be able to cook this and eat this way and show love to one another.
Yeah, and you just talked about the kimchi there. I want you to talk a little bit about your first live workshop and creating that kimchi because that was pretty amazing.
Yeah, so that kimchi class happened a couple of weeks prior to the Homesteaders United event, and I got the community together, and we all learned how to make I think I made ahead of that, I made like 15 different types of kimchi,
Yeah.
and I had a tasting station for each. The children put together a huge charcuterie board. I just had a great time. The children were able to display their pottery as well and sold things, and
It was such a really good and such a strong community activity. It was a good community event that brought
not
people
only
together.
that, downstairs of the property that we used, we were secretly hosting a game night
So
for the
the
guys and the
women were
children.
upstairs learning the kimchi, and downstairs the guys had pizza, and we also had board games going on. Axis and Allies.
This is how I can convince families to come out because
Full
we
family
full family
activity.
experience, yeah, and the kids were downstairs and the dads were downstairs so the moms can focus. That's just how we work, and I do better focusing and learning when I know that the people that I love are here with me and they're not at home or they
Yeah.
could be screaming, they could be fighting each other. No, everyone's having fun. So I will have the liberty to have fun with other women and other people who share the same things I wanna learn. Yeah,
We always consider the family unit whenever
right.
we plan things. Thank you for sharing that. And that's just the first event, but there's going to be more live events because that was such a huge success. But I just wanted to pause and just give you praise on that because that was amazing event. But let's go ahead and go back
Yeah,
to
yeah.
the Homesteaders United
Yes.
event.
So going back to it, the way that we work in our family is all hands on deck. We
Hmm.
all help each
Hmm.
other out. That's just I don't know again if that's military or if we're Asian. I don't know what that is. So I want to just bring that up because I didn't realize how uniquely we worked because we work as a family. And if you need
Yeah.
something, I will either help you fill that need or get the children to help you. And
Y-
likewise.
And I'm going to jump in right here. I know you're going somewhere with this, but I also wanted to add in exactly that. I was doing things that wasn't part of the event. I had to chase down cattle because the place that this event was being hosted at, our business partners didn't have good fencing. And so when you don't have good fencing, which we've already learned in California, that you have to absolutely have good fencing before you even bring livestock onto your property. It is absolutely irresponsible not to have good fencing. These
What
cattle,
what do they say? Good fencing makes good neighbors,
yeah,
right?
that's a
Like,
good point.
it's one of the reasons why we had put fencing up when we were in California, because
Yeah.
the neighbors had their cattle jump over our fence to our property because we had grass.
Yeah, but thank goodness I have all this. I don't have years and years, but I have experience in dealing with cattle from California and now in Tennessee with our beef and dairy cattle. That here I am at this event, and our business partners have their cattle and their dog loose and getting towards where
Nice.
the event our patrons are at too. And so we wanted to keep them protected. And I'm out there almost like at night bringing in the cattle. So talk about all hands on deck. And if my children were there, they were doing other things at the time, but they were working and helping you out in the kitchen. But it was absolutely hands on deck. It was
Yeah. I think
interesting.
at the end of the day, the biggest lesson for us is our mission is to empower those to be able to take control of their home, their homesteads,
Yeah.
their finances, the future, the legacy that we want to leave behind for our children and the next generation, even if you don't have kids. Like, you want to leave this world a better place than when you got it. And I'll just say that requires a lot of ownership over the
Mhm.
individual things that you can do
Yeah.
and then the collective things that we can do together.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize that. Not very many people share that same value.
Yeah.
And so just know that not just moving forward, but how we do life is if we are ever going to invite you to our table, you will never have to question the ingredients. You'll never have to question the quality. When we say that the food that we are serving is food that you've harvested, your hands have taken place in this process, and that I have made this food or we are serving this food, we say that and we mean it with integrity. And it really shocked me when that was not the case for the people that we were working with,
Yeah.
to the point that I just can't because we've got sponsorship. We brought in sponsorships. And so thank you so much for Weston A. Price, Green Pasture Products, Redmond Salt. We brought in the sponsors that helped finance and fund the food and the event for us, not just with product only. And though we're grateful for our other sponsors who donated their products, the finances came from the major sponsors who supported us on the food side and the ag side. Like Redmond Salt has a human consumption side and the agriculture side. Green Pasture Products is on the human consumption side, and we can cook with a lot of the delicious fermented cod liver oil. And then we also had Wise Traditions as a huge sponsor for us, not just financially, but sending their chef into the kitchen to help me make sure that we all had our food. So my integrity for food quality is going to be as high as Weston A. Price. Sally Fallon Morell endorsed my cookbook, and she was a huge mentor of mine when I was looking into how do we clean up our food for our first child, and therefore led me down this entire path over the last 14 years now. So we're not new to this, but it was shocking to hear from those to tell us that not everybody can afford to eat this way. And that's absolutely not what we believe at all. We believe that everybody should be able to afford to eat this way, especially when we like to
Mhm.
share and trade with those who live this way. And so it's so important for us. And that is a non negotiable, working with individuals who make us feel like we have to compromise on the quality of our products
Yeah.
and services.
So to simplify things moving forward, this coming year, we are taking complete ownership of Homesteaders United. We're taking it back, and we're going to be hosting it in Tennessee. So we're looking forward to it. Stay tuned for more information and click the link below to sign up and continue to get news and updates on our event. We would love to have you there. Okay. And after that, we actually did some really neat tours. You talked about one of our main sponsors, Redmond. Wow. They invited us to go out and tour their mines and meet their staff and meet their CEO. What a trip.
Oh, it had so much fun. We have been looking forward to it all year, and we met the entire team that we have been speaking and partnering with the entire year, over the last several years, rather. But to see the mines in person and then to meet the CEO, Rhett, and have dinner with him, literally sat next to him this entire dinner. And I asked him the hard questions of how does he run a company with such incredible people? What are your interview questions? And I literally wanted to know because
That
he's,
was my highlight of the
yeah,
whole event.
yeah. And licking the salt wall.
Okay, licking the salt wall, sure. I felt a little claustrophobic going into the salt mine, even though these huge trucks and buses go down there every single day. I didn't realize how I would feel. Like I got a little anxious going down as the mines. But needless to say, we did that. We shot some cool dynamite. It was an amazing trip. But going back to that evening where many of the other influencers were sitting at the table having dinner, we were sitting in the back table with staff just having our dinner. And Rhett comes and sits down, and you start asking him the questions. And his answers were just, it was profound for me because we've worked in corporate, we've worked for good bosses, but many bad bosses. And the way that Rhett views his team and how it's not there aren't people like directly above and that it's more of a lateral, unilateral like leadership where everyone has a say and that there's no actual position description for what you actually do because you as an individual are irreplaceable that if you leave they wouldn't make a job description for what you did exactly because each of his people on his team they wear several hats, and that's something that speaks to me coming from the military and being forced to being voluntold to do so many different activities as part of my job. But all of the people on his team, they do these extra duties, but they do it smiling. They do it
Cheerfully.
joyfully. That's amazing. I'm so used to seeing people who just grumble and do the job and just do enough because that is their paycheck to pay the bills. But there is something absolutely special in something that he's doing correctly because his team is fired up, they're motivated. It's a joy to get a call from them. It's a joy to speak with them, to work with them at homesteading events. So there's something that he's doing. So I'm glad you got to the heart of the matter and asked him these questions because his answers were just they were mind blowing for me.
Not only that, I was genuinely curious the entire time because you witness the employees there and they are, to your point, they are so excited, genuinely excited about us being there. They genuinely care. And that's hard to find. That's
Mhm.
really hard to find from employees of a large company. And so I wanted to get to the heart of the matter, but inadvertently, the lessons that he was teaching are things that we've brought back home to our own home to teach the children, to instill an environment where the children are joyful and motivated and want to maintain relationships with each other, with us, with those that they meet. It's
I
not
will
just like core values that he brought up, but it's inspired us to take all those lessons, learned from him and how he runs his company to like how we want to raise our children too.
I love that he operates with in full integrity and that he even encourages his employees or his teammates to be open and honest about themselves, to be able to self reflect and assess where they're weak in and
Mm.
be able to admit to their team that they're weak in certain areas and actually ask for help and ask for other team members to step in and help them out in their areas of weakness and take on those responsibilities. And that's something that is absolutely unheard of in the corporate world where you are encouraged to never show any sign of weakness because there's always that person behind you that's looking for the opportunity to stab you in the back, to take your job, to steal your job. And
Oh, it's
that is
just
the kind of like most people, 90% of the people are used to that. And to hear him talk about the type of work environment that he fosters, it's really refreshing. So he is absolutely an advocate of promoting the strengths, like having his employees provide feedback in terms of do what you're strong in. That way you can enhance the team with your strengths. And overall, the entire team will be stronger because they're pulling on their strengths. They're doing the job that they want to do. They're taking on the responsibilities they want to do. That way they stay excited. They stay motivated. They're not faking it. And it definitely shows for those of us who come in and see them or spend a day with them. We feel it. There's something different about the energy that they're giving off, that they're actually excited about the work that they do. So if everyone is pulling on all their strengths, then clearly the company's going to meet their goals. Clearly the company's going to meet their numbers. They're going to do extremely well. And this was one thing
yeah.
too that evening Rhett did say that I don't set goals because if you set a goal, then that means once you hit that goal, you're done. And he feels that the goal is always that marker is always moving forward, that you're always chasing after it because you should always be in the pursuit of excellence. And I'm like, that is amazing because that is something where it ties directly in with the military too. We may have markers where we're trying to get to a certain point, but we always want to push ourselves past that point. And in terms of meeting standards. We never want to meet standards. We always want to exceed standards. And that's exactly what he was saying.
Yeah, and it brings me back to what you were saying when you were trying to take your 2
2 mile
miles
test. Yeah.
at West Point, and you said the time limit that you had to do it was in.
It was different. It was faster than what the
Right.
Army standard
Right, that's what
is.
I'm saying. That's my
Yeah.
point, is that what was that time? Do you remember?
I don't
Oh,
remember the
okay.
time.
But
Yeah.
yeah, to your point, what West Point trained you for was to make sure that you would beat the standard time for the Army,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what I loved about hearing him talk about not managing, like he's not a manager. He's truly a leader for his employees, where he's motivating them and finding out what their strengths are. Because I was reading something else too, where they said, if you know what your strengths are, it's a lot easier to, oh, it was grit from Angela Duckworth, but it's a lot easier for you to lean into that and
Yeah.
have the, what we call talent, but for you to excel in that quickly than for you to struggle doing something that you know is your weakness, as you're going to get there to succeed, but it's just going to take you a lot longer. So it's just beautiful to see all of this come together and to hear it from his mouth, to see the proof in the pudding, so to speak,
Yeah.
and to take those lessons home, apply it to our own business, apply it to our team, and applying it, absolutely applying it to our children and our family.
Yeah.
Just I loved it. I loved the entire experience with him. So much so that I came back to the Redmonds tour 2 weeks later with the Weston A. Price chapter leaders. And one of my best friends, Danny, who normally travels with me when I'm traveling, whether it's like Oaxaca or here, that we were able to spend some time together. We
Yeah.
worked out of an Airbnb. We got a lot of things done, and it was great to just focus on what we wanted to do, what our goals were, but also to spend that time together with a really good girlfriend to just calm my nervous system
Yeah.
and to visit Redmond's again. That was an incredible experience for her. We went on the same tour, but learned so many different things, or I had learned so many more things on top of what we had learned when I went with you.
Mhm.
And I was able to bring home more salt because you weren't there to stop me.
A lot of rocks. And then right after that, something amazing happened. You launched your growth school.
Right. That's right. So, growth school started as a homeschool teacher myself, who's in a classical Christian homeschool co op. I actually acquired the growth school domain years
Yeah,
ago.
a while ago. You like to collect domains. Say that jokingly, but you get some really good domain names because of this very reason.
I tend to buy domain names in like the middle of the night when my brain doesn't stop. So you'll wake up and you're like, why'd you buy 3 more domains?
Yeah.
I do let them expire, so I don't just keep all of them, but this one I kept for a long time because I really loved it.
Mhm.
As a head of growth for many years, startups and at Fortune 500 companies, leading growth, I knew that one day I was going to launch an educational tech platform where I could teach the children these skills that I've learned in growth.
Yeah.
Growth meaning not just marketing, but in product as well. So a lot of entrepreneurial skills to grow a business rather quickly because you understand like product led growth and product market fit. So, all of that to say, I was asked to teach a digital trades class for the high schoolers, those that are seeking an alternative to going to college. And there aren't that many high school teachers either at the school. The school started just a handful of years ago. And now the children are starting to graduate
It's a
from.
co-op. Yeah.
Yes. And I said, this is no better time than for me to launch this
Yeah.
that I've been wanting to. So that's where that started. And so it's been incredible. We are on week like 13.
Yeah, and I love that it's focused on AI.
Yes.
So not only is it on creating your digital trade and creating your own business, but how do you incorporate AI?
And I talk about the good and the bad, things to be cautious about
Mhm.
AI.
Yeah.
Just a very realistic conversation of what we're dealing with here.
Yeah.
It's interesting because we had just come back from DC and New York for your, we haven't talked about this yet, but your reunion. And we played an escape room. Our family always, I think you've heard from our previous podcast episodes that we love going to escape rooms with our family whenever we're in a new city or a town. And we did that when we were in DC. And after we got out, we were talking to the employees and I genuinely wanted to ask them about like how well prepared do you feel as you graduate from college with AI? And it was so valuable. I want to have a whole dedicated podcast to that conversation because we ended up speaking for 2 hours after the escape games ended. And it was so fascinating to hear the challenges that they were facing and they're paying upwards of at least 30 to $50,000, at least 30 for sure in their college tuition. So I want to know, do you think it's worth it still? Do you think you're ill prepared or do you think you're very prepared? I want to know because is that the path forward anymore? When
Yeah.
we grew up, that was something that we were told that was the path to success is to make sure that you graduate, you go to a good college, you graduate there, and then you move on and get a really good paying job. But is that still the case anymore? And so I had these real life conversations with a student who went to my alma mater, George Washington University. And she was working there at the escape room. And then another one who went to Howard University.
Yeah.
And so it was great to hear their different perspectives. One of them was a biology major, which I was, and the other one was a fine arts
Yeah. He was a music major.
music major.
Yeah.
So do you think AI is going to replace you? Do you think it's going to replace you?
Well,
And
not only that, you asked the question, the educational institution that you go to, Howard, George Washington University, do they support AI? What's the key question? Are they supporting the use of it or are they trying to control and ban the use of AI, even though it's here?
yeah, and I'll just give you a hint or a quick answer. One of them said, actually, both of them, but one of them in particular gave me an example of how she has to dumb down her essays and her writing in her essays so that the AI fraud detector does not flag her report or her essay because she was mistakenly
Yeah.
flagged before she even knew what ChatGPT was, for example.
Yeah.
And so I heard that and I'm like, wait, let me just ask you that question again. So you have to dumb down your writing so that the AI fraud detector does not flag your work and you're in college and you're paying $50,000 in your college tuition. And she said, yes.
Wow. That was eye-opening for me too, because usually it's the other way around, but because of the way that she grew up and she's very well learned and would read a lot of books and wrote a lot of essays, that the way that she writes is on par with ChatGPT.
Here's the
Yeah,
main issue though. It's not even that. The main issue is China today, they're teaching their children AI skills starting at 6 years old.
that's right.
So, what a huge disadvantage for us in America. And you voluntarily paying all that money to be educated at one of the top universities, yet you have to dumb down your work to show the university that you're paying for that you're not cheating by using AI. But in China, they are teaching their 6-year-old children how to use it.
Yeah,
That is why I said yes to starting the growth school
yeah.
officially, even having the domain for years, because it just infuriated me that this is going on and our schools, our education from from K to 12, they're ill prepared.
It's supposed to be institution of higher learning.
Yeah. But there is the caveat to that too. We'll talk more about that in another episode. But yeah,
We can
the
go deep into this.
yeah,
Yeah, it's a good
there's a
topic.
lot of things that I'm conflicted with as well, but you've got to learn how to use it. And you have to be human. That's still at the very core of it. At the end of the day, people are going to want things made by humans. They're going to want things written by humans. They're going to want to
Yeah.
know that this is you. And that's one of the reasons why we're showing up here, because we are in the flesh and you know that this is who we are. This is what we think. These are our values. And this is not a scripted conversation,
No, it's
you
not
know?
scripted. And going back to the growth school, this is such a beautiful project that is just starting to, it's evolving. And I'm so thrilled that it was launched, that we're helping the high schoolers figure out what they want to do and just reimagining what their future looks like with the changes with AI. But we're also providing this tool for realtors as well as for lenders now, because they're constantly looking for ways to revamp their business, how they can use technology with their business to grow their business. We just came back from a conference. I know it sounds like we're going all over the place here, but I'm
Well,
trying
no,
to tie it here.
we're in Q4,
Yeah.
so we can jump to that.
We just got back recently. It's been a few weeks now, but got back from UWM in Detroit, where we were out there and we were invited to speak by your brokerage on how to brand and how to market and use AI to expand your business. And this is something where we were in a room full of top performing lenders. They're doing at least 20 million in sales a year, and they're still leaving money on the table. There's still opportunities for them to improve because a great majority of them had built to zero to little social media presence and weren't even telling their story. They didn't even have a strong brand, and they're still producing. Think of how much more business they could be doing when they could tap into this. And we just got done doing that and it was really awesome. And we tied it into the growth school.
And I'm launching my very first cohort for real estate professionals and mortgage professionals
Yeah.
who are wanting to build up their personal brand. That's just, especially in the world of AI, your story is unique. Whether you're a real estate professional or
Mhm.
everyone has such a unique story, not just one story, multiple stories. And that at any point, I want to encourage you, especially this year being tough for a lot of people,
Yeah.
you can reinvent yourself at any point. You can tell your story and you can write your story. I think that one of the things, and we talk about having a growth mindset,
Mhm.
being in growth, and making sure that the children can call out when someone says something that's a limited mindset. We play those games, watching something, someone saying something, pause and saying, what was wrong with that statement? It's such a huge thing for us to know that even in the most challenging circumstances, you can turn that into a good story.
Yeah.
You have to tell yourself this happened so that we can stop, reevaluate, see what we need to do next. And let's just share that story about having to restart over. And this is one of the toughest things that we had to go through in the last couple of weeks. We took some time off to take a look at all the things that we had our hands in and take a realistic view of how we can best serve our clients. Tim already does a lot of real estate deals across all 50 states of the country
Yeah.
and has referral partners and has partners that he's personally vetted himself. But I often say, you have the sexy job. Like you get to be the front face of, look at this beautiful property. Look at this, like a Vanna White almost of real estate.
Thank you. Yeah.
But nobody really understands and gives any consideration to the mortgage loan officer
Mm.
that's on the other side of that deal. And I say this because I don't care to be the front face of any of it. To be honest, on the lending side, I just need to make sure that the deals close for
Mhm.
us and our clients. But one of the important things that when Tim refers outside of the states that I'm not licensed in, and I'm licensed in 8 states personally, he was trying to find good lenders to service our real estate clients in Montana, in Washington, in Nevada. And
It's very frustrating going through this process because there's only so many things that I can control. And I love walking in step with my clients. Many of them are first time home buyers, or a lot of them are veterans themselves, like myself. And when I make a referral, or there's only so much that I can control with the mortgage lending officer. And that is someone who needs to be a teammate of mine, because when you think of it, and you can join one of our home buying workshops, which we'll have a link below as well. We have a monthly one.
we're trying to start monthly now. We were
Yeah.
doing it every 2 months, but
Yeah.
it's been so well received that
Yeah.
we're going to be trying to do monthly now.
I think it's a great idea. We're happy to do it, and we're providing the service for you. But in that workshop, and something that I truly believe in, is that when you are purchasing your very first property, or even if it's not your first property, you're purchasing a homestead, a home, you want to have the best possible team backing you up. And that team includes, yes, your realtor and your lender. You want to make sure that you have full trust in them. They are there not to just collect their commission or their paycheck and to give you whatever the easiest answer is. They're the ones to challenge you. They're the ones to ask the questions that you may not know what to ask. They are the ones that you can ask the quote unquote dumb questions and feel safe to ask that to either of them and get real, true answers. And the lender is just so important because he or she is dealing with your finances. And that is a super vulnerable part.
I like to think that you have the easy job, and I'm probably wrong in that assumption, but pretty much you get the fun job of going shopping and looking at beautiful homes, and you do a darn good job at negotiations. Like you're the best negotiator that I've worked with across all the different agents that I support. You
Mhm.
crush it. You protect your clients, whether it's on the selling side or it's on the buying side. So
Yeah.
kudos to you on that. We make a great team
Mhm.
because you know that, and our clients know that on the lending side, as a wholesale mortgage broker, I am making sure that I am structuring the deal. I'm structuring the scenario right for each and every one of our clients. I'm making sure that we can close on time, if not even faster than what we promised,
Yeah.
and that the their structured deal is going to be the best one for them for the next 30 years. And if you're out there looking for a home, that's something to realize. Yes, the realtor should be fighting for you, protecting your funds on that side on the of that transaction, but your lender is also the one who is managing your monthly cash flow, right? How much you're paying. Are you going to be paying an extra 100, 150, $200 a month? How do you know? You've got to trust that the lender is going to put you in a good program. And over the last couple of weeks, like I've been more vocal on my social media, if you've heard me, is because all of our clients have literally come back and to tell us like, oh, we had somebody reach out to us and this is what they promised. And they totally bait and switched one of my other clients. If you listen to our last episode, where he didn't know that I do cash out refinances or HELOCs. He thought I just did home purchases because we were a part of his home purchase. And he's just not familiar with how the lending process works. He just trusts. And I have a slew of his emails who he said, oh, he told me that he was going to get me this rate. And he told me he was going to get me this much cash out so I could pay off all my debt and I will have funds left over for business investment. And I said, nope, you signed for a higher rate and you signed for less cash. And he just couldn't believe it. This is one story of many. I have another client who literally the lender was charging them an extra 5 grand to wipe out their debt on their cash out refi. If the goal is your client is trying to pay off $100,000 in debt, why would you add another $5,000 in fees on top of closing costs? It just seems like a reckless thing to do. So anyhow, because we had the limitation of my access to be licensed in 8 states, I'll be expanding to
Mhm.
as much as I can. But to get there faster, because of the number of requests and clients that come in and ask us to say, hey, I'm out in Oregon. Hey, I'm out in North Dakota, South Dakota, Montana, Wyoming, Ohio, Iowa. Like we have clients from all over the country that I'm not able to service. So we have expanded our team beyond just the 8 states that I cover. And now we can cover all 50 states on the lending side as well as the real estate side.
Yeah, we have. And that's why I went and got my MLO license, passed that exam so that I can understand and have more control and better understanding of the numbers of the finances. We've expanded our team to all 50 states so that not only can we do the real estate side, but I can also help and assist and answer questions on the financing side as well. And that's truly powerful. And back to what Sophie was saying, there are two main things. If you can cue in on that for having a really good lender, one, someone's going to close that deal and close it smoothly. But two, someone is going to put you in the right loan program that is optimal for you. And I didn't know if you caught that for you. The mortgage loan originator, he or she can put you in a loan program that's optimal for them, where they're making way more money and you're having to pay way more in costs every single month for that mortgage. And you wouldn't know any better because you don't know, but
Pl-
we've seen it.
Please listen to our previous episode. It's a little bit, it's not as long as this, but it's a great episode where we talk about the debt consolidation and all the clients that we're working with. And I literally walk through the scenarios of the conversations that my clients have had. And we share this out as a warning because if you're working with the wrong team, you're going to be paying more in fees. You're going to be paying more in your monthly. And at this point, even for us in this economy,
Yeah.
cash flow is king. Please read Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We have literally been playing cash flow with the children in our game nights with those in our community. And our community includes a regenerative farmer, it includes an insurance broker, a real estate agent, a mortgage lender. Like we have such a huge swath of knowledge within our group of people. And that's adults playing with high school and middle school children. We're playing cash flow to help instill those values and that understanding to make it so concrete for our children. And we don't just want to do it within our world because clearly we're biased. We know the real estate is the best investment for your family. So we know that, but we didn't want to keep the children within our own biases. We are playing it with our community that has a whole different world of experiences. And they are all playing and advising the children, like, hey, you should reconsider this and how you think about this. And it's such a beautiful thing. We're so grateful that like we have other wise, sage adults pouring into our children.
And with the cash flow game, we're definitely going to be talking a lot more about that in our next episode, where we're going to be focusing on 2026 planning and what we have planned for this coming year. You got to stay tuned for that. Aside from that, I did go back and we brought the whole family, and this was a huge deal. This meant so much to me. And this was my 20-year reunion at West Point. So we've been planning for it. And we even went to DC at first to go check out your alma mater. We met some friends on the way, went to New York. This was, I think it was the second time for our children to go to New York, but they actually could enjoy it this time. And we made it so that they could attend a couple of the Broadway shows. They went to the Empire State Building. So they did some of the touristy stuff to experience New York City. I don't think I ever want to go back again. We drove the Suburban through, I don't know what I was thinking, through the busy streets. And coming from the country, I truly appreciate where we live and where I just have to dodge deer running in the middle of the road. I don't want to have to dodge people. So that was a very stressful event for me. But going back to West Point, and there were a couple of the past episodes, we have a two-part series that we did on it. And please tune in if you're interested on that. But it was a really deep dive for me, a way for me to look back, because West Point was a huge part of my life as well as the Army. And thinking back as to what my plans were going into West Point, all my aspirations, and then what happened through West Point, through the Army, and where my life led me to now being the homesteading agent, and just truly appreciating what I got from the academy, what I learned from that school, and the friends that I have, and also being able to cherish and appreciate the friendships I have with my peers. In fact, we even went to Kentucky recently, and I got to see one of my very best friends, Drew, get promoted to colonel. This is one of his goals, and I was just so happy to be there to experience it with him and then spend time with some good friends as well. So it was a really good trip overall. It was my second time back to West Point since I graduated, but I was so happy to be able to share that with you, that experience, and with the children and even with grandma. So it was a really unique experience I'll always cherish. Aside from that, we were going into winter now. We wanted to slow things down. We had the calves bred back. We also dried them out. We wanted to be more intentional with our time. We didn't want to get burnt out. We wanted to make sure that going into winter, we can focus not only on improving infrastructure and some of the projects that we've been putting off because we've had to deal with working with the livestock or attending and speaking at events, that we can actually slow back down and get to some of those other projects. But more importantly, we can focus more on ourselves and each other primarily. I wanted to make sure that I could be giving from a full cup, that I can't give to Sophia what I don't have. And I want to make sure that I am operating at top capacity, and that she feels that and that she can operate at top capacity, and that we can both together be the best possible partners for one another and be the best parents for our children. And I say this to be real with you. And I want to share that this is real life. This is modern homesteading, if I could define it, that it's not perfect. You're having to juggle and balance many things. And we hear you. 2025, there's a lot of things that went on this year. There are a lot of goods, there are a lot of ups, there are some downs, challenges that we learned from. But at the end of it all, who you are, the values that you have, the people that you can share it with, and your loved ones, at the end of the day, who you're with and the people that you're cherishing with, those are the times that you need to build and you need to pour out your love towards those who are going to be there for you through the thick and the thin. And Sophie, you've been my battle buddy, you've been my wife through all of it. And this is like reflecting back on the 20-year reunion. And You've been there for the deployments, all the not glorious times of the military, the after deployment after effects of what I had to go through and some of the PTSD stuff, why I'm 100% VA disabled. I know that wasn't easy. Going through a few career pivots as well, to the point where now we are farming on 40 acres and we're doing the best that we can. And we're learning every single day to lead a more resilient lifestyle. And we're leading and inspiring others to do the same, whether it's through this podcast or online or through our Call to Farms community. We want to be able to encourage you, if you're listening, that if there's something burning inside of you to want to homestead, like what's stopping you? If we can do it, you can do it. And we want to be there to run alongside you. But don't forget those who have been there with you. And so that's something that I want to personally, I'm doing, and I know you're working as well. Like we are trying to be more intentional during this season when we can rest a little bit, but work on one another so that we can be that much stronger and have that much more love for one another so that this coming year we can make 2026 an even better, if not greater year for us.
I love that. Yeah, it's been a great year, even though we probably had a lot of challenges this year. But I think, again, it's just a matter of perspective and getting clearer on what our strengths are. And we've been so blessed to be able to be with those that we are inspired by, that we can
Mhm.
ask the tough questions and learn their secrets and their hacks of how they're so successful in their business and in their lives and in their families. I even asked Rhett, I'll just say at the very end before I left, I said, wait, one last question. Yes, we know you're a fantastic leader, great at your company. Your employees are fantastic. Thank you for all of the tips and sharing your core values. Can I ask you one final question? And he said, yes. He said, how is your relationship with your children? And I know there are challenges and nuances with that too, with family and stuff. He said that they are all happy together. They get together. They all stay in the kind of the same vicinity. Some of them actually work for the business. Some of them have gone off to do their own things as entrepreneurs. And it's just like that to me, biblically, it says we are told to judge them by their fruit, to see what their families are like, their children. How are they? Are they happy? Are they healthy? Are they joyful? Are they respectful? All of the things and more
Yeah.
of that. And that is one of the things that like so important to us to live a life where the children are happy. They're joyful. They can live to their full potential and that we are happy together. We continue as a family to pour out to those that we love and can change and can help them in their situation and just love on the people in our community. So we're just so grateful for every single one of you who have listened to our
Mhm.
episodes this year, our podcast, who you shared. If you've bought our book, thank you so much. If you're on our email list, like we're so grateful for each and every one of you. We don't know where everyone's coming from. This is a one-sided conversation here, but drop a message down below. Let us know where you're from. Let us know how you're doing. How was 2025 for you this year? What are you looking forward to in 2026? And we'll get more into what we expect, what we look forward to in 2026 in our next episode.
Absolutely. I want to tell you that I'm grateful for you. I love you. And I'm also so grateful for all of you who have been tuning in and have been avid listeners. It has been such a blessing helping others achieve their homesteading dreams.
Yeah. And not only that, for those of our clients, many of them have become our friends, and we are so grateful for that. We are still contacting them and delivering yogurt and milk. And this coming weekend, we got invited to do a sourdough pizza night together. We're going to make sourdough pizzas.
Yum.
And this is what it's all about for us. It's not the transaction, it is being able to help our clients make that move from where they're at, and them being so scared to make a cross country move or cross state move to finally saying, "Yes, I can do this because I trust you both." And that means the world to us, especially in the world where it was impossible for us to find when we were looking for our homestead. So we love that. We thank you so much for the opportunity to speak with you and to work with you and to take care of not just you and your family, but your referrals to your friends as well. So we just thank you so much. And we look forward to a strong 2026 year with each and every one of you and so many more.
Yeah, may you all have a blessed new year. Until next time, take care.
Stay healthy.